Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nuance Needed podcast. I'm Amanda White.
And this is Sam Dalton.
And Sam is reporting live from New York.
Reporting live from Jersey City.
Yep.
I've been joking with my clients because I saw a few clients this morning with the boxes behind. I was like, this feels like a very appropriate background.
Yes.
To be like, what are we unpacking today?
Yeah.
What box are we going to choose?
When I worked at rehabs, I used to do a lot of like physical demonstrations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I could have done a group about like, let's unpack our fears. What's in the fear box today?
Did you ever do the toothpaste metaphor?
No, what's the toothpaste metaphor?
So when I worked on a psychiatric or adolescent inpatient psych unit, I would help teach like groups and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we would talk about decisions and the ramifications of certain choices and decisions. And what you would do is you would hand them little like travel bottles of toothpaste, which looking back, this was insanely wasteful, but it was what we gave them when they came in and didn't have anything, if their parents didn't have time to like bring them stuff. And I would be like, okay, squeeze all the toothpaste out. And then I would be like, now put it back in. And they would be like, whoa.
You can't undo your decisions.
You can't undo certain things. Like, and I said, notice how this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But maybe it was if you don't have access to any more toothpaste ever.
Yeah.
That's not great. Mm-hmm. But anyway, nothing like a good metaphor. Regardless, boxes because my life is in shambles.
It's so exciting though.
I know. Yesterday morning was a lot. So we got in late Tuesday night. We stayed at a hotel by the Newark airport, which, if you're familiar, is
Must
not
have been luxury.
It's not a great place. The hotel was actually fine. It was a Hampton Inn, so it's fine. But in the morning, when you see the reality of everything, you're like, oh, I have firmly left suburbia behind. Which, like, I wanted to do that, but then it's like a punch to the face when you're like, oh, I have to cut across 6 lanes to make sure I don't get trapped in the Holland Tunnel, ending up in Manhattan.
Have I? I've never driven to New York City. I've driven to Jersey City. I mean, in other people's cars. I mean, me by myself, because it seems so stressful, and then I've avoided it.
So if for any of you who are not familiar with the Northeast, it is the land of tolls. So you have to pay to drive. You have to pay to go places.
When I worked at a rehab and I lived in Philly, I paid $5 every day to go to New Jersey.
Every day. If I want to go to Target, Trader Joe's, or anywhere else, I will now have to pay $1.
Yeah, and that's not even going to a new state.
No, which is fine. I knew this coming here. But what had happened was in the morning, first of all, we totally underestimated the amount of time that it was going to take us to get from Newark to our apartment. Mm-hmm. Because as the crow flies, it should take about 13 minutes.
That is the most deceiving feature ever on a phone. Why on God's earth does that still exist? Because consistently, it confuses me all the time. And I just don't understand how anyone was like, well, you might fly.
Yeah, you might take a helicopter. I will say, I did 100% say to my sister, I'm like, I understand why people in the ultra wealthy tax bracket buy helicopters. I too would. I 100%.
Fly to New York.
I would buy a helicopter to just fly around and do what I needed to do because this is ridiculous.
A lot of people die in helicopters.
They
do.
It
feels like it's the most dangerous.
R.I.P. Kobe.
Yeah.
Rest in power. Yeah, so we didn't realize, like, we knew where we were going. We've been here before.
Right.
But then it's like, it's different when it's you and you're like, oh, this is my life now, you know? And so it was like the morning, it was 7:45 in the morning, peak rush hour. There was like 15 lanes merging into the Holland Tunnel. But then we got off on these like side 3 to get off on the exit immediately before the Holland Tunnel to just go straight down to Jersey City. And so I'm thinking like these 3 lanes are going to be fine. But then what you don't realize is you're actually just going to the middle of the toll, like the line of tolls. There's like 30 toll booths. And then I had to get across about 7 lanes to get to the actual exit. And I pissed everybody in New Jersey off.
Sometimes you don't know, though.
I don't know.
How we have this expectation that everyone's driven here before and they should know when the lanes are going to end.
Yeah. So Regardless, we made it there. Our moving truck, the guy was incredible. He already had like everything. The door was open. He had asked people to like let him in, let him know like what unit he was moving in for. He had already walked to our apartment. He was like, all right, let's go. They were done in 2 hours.
Wow.
2.5 hours. But then the chaos begins of like, oh, I don't have a shower curtain.
Right.
Because I've had a shower with a glass door. So I'm like, oh. And I as a very kind older sister this time around, gave my sister the bathroom with the glass door.
Oh, that is nice of you. Although I kind of feel like you should have gotten it. Sorry, Kendra, because she travels so much, Sam. But I guess you're just going to like take her shower when she's traveling. Or I guess it doesn't really matter, you know.
Well, because I took the whole den.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm owning the den. And so I basically have half the apartment, and she is letting me use half of her walk-in closet.
Okay, that's fair.
We're very fair to each other, which I feel like is rare for sisters. But
it is.
Anyway, modeling healthy behavior. So
compromise, nuance. It's not all black and white. It's not, tit for tat. Good job.
Sacrifice. We're really good at sacrifice. Listen to episode 77 for more information on that. Anyway, but then after that, it was the whole, we had to go to the store, and then we had to find where we got food because we had no food and we were starving. We needed lunch and nothing is convenient anymore, and paying for parking and paying for tolls and getting turned around on the tolls and all of that. And so there was never a moment where I was like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done this. Yeah. It wasn't that type of stress. But I let myself feel the stress of the change. Yeah. Because I think there have been a couple of instances in my life where change is happening and it's good. And I won't I beat myself up for feeling stressed because I'm like, well, no, I chose this. But then, and so I was like, you know what? This is a lot. This is a lot to take in one day. It's very overwhelming. Your whole life has been turned upside down. Everything's in a box. You're figuring everything out. And so I let yesterday be chaotic. And then this morning, so we got all that done. We got back to our place probably at like 5-ish. And then we slowly started to like go through certain boxes, and we kind of started to put together our rooms and things like that. And then it felt okay. Yeah. But I think if you're listening to this and you are also highly motivated, high achieving, people pleasing, all of that, you're not doing a transition wrong because it's stressful or crazy. Like, that doesn't mean you didn't plan something well enough, or you didn't manage it right, or you didn't make good decisions. Like, it's the nature of the adjustment. The last place that we were at, the internet was like ready to go when we got in, and it was included in like the amenities package that we already paid. This one, we had to set it up, and I didn't know that. So we came in, there was no internet. Then we were afraid that we were kind of in like a service dead zone. And there was just like all this stuff coming at us. Then I had to pay for like the parking garage to get the parking pass, and they didn't have it. So we had to wait for it. It was just like all those little million things that happen when you're like adjusting to moving somewhere. Yeah. And I also was like, my next move has to be to a place that I own. I cannot keep living like this. But overall, I'm very happy with the place. It's cute. It's a little bit smaller than what we had before, but it's really nice. I think our stuff's going to look very nice in it. So I'm happy. I'm very excited.
Good for you, man. You're where you're supposed to be.
Since we are knee-deep in November, i.e. holiday shopping season, I am going to give you the cheat code to the best gift that you could give to anybody in your life. And these are the Cozy Earth bamboo sheet sets or the Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas. When I tell you these things collectively have given me the most comfortable sleep of my life, I am speaking to you with my whole chest. The material is like nothing I've ever felt in my life. It is a viscose bamboo, and it is so uniquely soft, and it has kept me insanely warm yet cool at the same time. I've sometimes struggled with getting really hot at night, and these sheets and these pajamas have made all the difference in the world to that. And also because of how comfy they are, they have made these cold fall mornings incredible. I cannot recommend them enough. And when you're thinking of giving somebody a gift and you're wanting them to have a gift that they are going to use every day, day in and day out, sheets are phenomenal. They also have a 100-night sleep trial, so you can try them out. If you don't love them, you can return them hassle-free. However, on night 2, you're going to realize you don't even have to do that. And they also have a 10-year warranty. That is how good this product is. You are going to have these sheets for a decade. Sheets for a decade. Nobody else is promising that. They are incredible. These are top notch. And since Black Friday is right around the corner, you can now stack my code Nuance. That's code Nuance, Nuance, giving you 40% off total your entire purchase. Use code Nuance at checkout to get 40% off your entire purchase and thank me later. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth.
What should we talk about?
Did you want to talk about like forgiveness or getting over people?
All right. How to repair relationships and apologize. I think there's a lot of conversations, obviously, on the internet about boundaries and about taking care of yourself. And I think there's a lot less content out there about how to repair and like the importance of rupture and repair and what healthy disagreement actually looks like. So maybe, Sam, we should start with talking about our own relationship with disagreement and ruptures in relationships and all that.
It's hard. I really empathize with people who have a tough time with this because if we're talking about repair as a whole, as if it's like an umbrella, I feel like it's an umbrella that covers anything that could possibly be triggering. You have to have a confrontational conversation. You have to communicate clearly. You have to remain calm, right? Even when your adrenaline is telling you to flip out, you want to try to fight that urge and kind of stay grounded. You are either feeling like you're going to upset someone or you're concerned that they are going to say something that hurts you. You have to have the feeling of holding somebody accountable or being held accountable and making sure that all of your feelings and how they're expressed come from your viewpoint rather than putting it on the other person, and using I statements, avoiding you statements. And that is a lot to manage if you are not used to it, if you're used to just being very reactive, if you're used to shutting down, if you're used to just cutting people off. These are very difficult conversations and I empathize with it. And also, these are critical life skills that you will use. This isn't even just about saying, oh, we're going to spend this episode talking about friendship divorce, right? Which I think we could honestly do an entire episode on that. This is about how you function in any relationship that you engage with, whether it's family, whether it's friend, whether it's professional, doesn't matter. These are critical, vital skills to being able to maintain and manage healthy relationships in your life.
Absolutely. I'm glad you started with the compassion because I think that was such a good way that you broke it down of all the different steps. Because I think sometimes people don't have the language to understand why they're so overwhelmed by it. And it's exactly your point. It's like multiple different skills. A lot of us also don't learn them. Most of our parents don't. Most people are not actually able, I would say if we had to say one of the biggest problems with humanity, I mean, just look at what's going on in politics, right? Most people do not learn this skill. So then they don't model it to their children, to other people in their life, with their partner. It's also, although you can model it and try to do it by yourself, it does, to actually repair a relationship, it requires the participation of another person and it requires them not shutting down and being defensive at some point. So yeah, it is a complicated skill. And it's, like you said too, so many people just get really overwhelmed regardless of what that looks like. It might be fear and the adrenaline, and then you shut down. It might be that you get angry and, kind of lash out. I mean, it's kind of like fight, flight, freeze, but whatever you do in a relationship. Or some people, I think, totally withdraw and cut someone off, and that's kind of like flight.
Right. And I think the fight or flight mode comes even more strongly when you've been in an abusive relationship. Or you've been taken advantage of before, or those conversations were met with, God forbid, violence, stonewalling, gaslighting. So I think there's a lot of people that have a really gnarly history of trying to repair and rebuild relationships. And I think what I sometimes start with too, if I have a client come to me and there's a relationship they're wanting to fix or an issue that they've identified in a relationship that they haven't addressed yet and they don't know how to address it. I think sometimes the step even before is how to assess if something has happened that does require repair. I think that trips people up even more. That game of well, it's fine. It was probably my fault. I'm being dramatic. I took that too personally, or like they didn't mean it that way. And all of that justifying is just us avoiding having to have a hard conversation. And it feels easier to just fall on the sword than have to go to somebody and be like, hey, you fucked up.
It's hard too, because it is hard to tell if you're like being dramatic, I think sometimes, or not. Like, it is hard to tell whether you're in your head about something. And I think hopefully we're starting to bring back a little bit more nuance on the internet of before we fell into sort of the opposite end of self-help stuff. I think we were on the other end in 2000s of just like teaching how if someone was mad at you, they would definitely tell you, and it's like all in your head. And we kind of like were too much in the other direction, I think. When I was a therapist at a rehab, we used to be like, if someone wanted to, they would, sort of. And if they have a problem with you, they will tell you. And if not, you're making it up. And like sometimes if your pattern is to think that everyone is mad at you, but I think we also do have to trust our instincts. And sometimes like things are weird and we have a right to investigate that.
Yeah. I think there is something to be said about sometimes the vibes are in fact off.
Yes. Yes.
And you can sense it and you can see a direct change in someone's behavior or the way they act around you or the way they communicate. Now, in this specific situation, what I always vote for is to just ask them how they're doing. I think to avoid starting out with making it about you, because there also is a really good chance that they are going through something, right? Because I also think sometimes the anxious brain tries to convince us that things have happened that haven't. So that's where we go down the rabbit hole of, well, what if they didn't like what I said, or they're mad at me about this, or I should have done that and they should have did it, right? That kind of like what if catastrophizing. It's actually pretty obvious. I would wager most of the time it can be pretty clear when you've said something to someone that is upsetting, whether it was because they're upset at you, or they're upset at what was said, or they were having kind of an off day and got a little miffed by something. Mm-hmm. But I think for my anxious friends, because this was something that I had to learn.
Yeah.
Because I would get in my own head about like, I don't think they like me. I think there's a separate group chat about me and they're talking about me and it was because I was annoying. And I had to recognize I'm someone that I am very rarely going to do something that is going to cause someone harm. And it's pretty clear when I do. And I can think of the times in my life when I have made mistakes or said things that I shouldn't have. And I know right away. And so I think if you're ever feeling like you're questioning, like, should I say something? Do I need to say something? I think there is a moment where you can allow yourself trust to say, I had no intention of that being something harmful, hurtful. Mm-hmm. The conversation that we had seemed to be okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't notice a change. They seemed happy. We were texting about it. Right. It is okay to fact check the actual things that have happened while you are assessing, should I bring something up? Should I say something?
Yeah, I think it's important to know your pattern. I think that's one of the overarching things we're circling around is if you are someone who often thinks everyone's mad at you, it is probably unlikely that everyone's mad at you.
Yes.
Where if you're someone who doesn't often think about other people and doesn't often think about what you said or things like that, I think you probably should be more mindful of how something lands with someone, because a lot of times our patterns are pretty revealing. And I think we also have to be, I liked your tip, Sam, of saying like, how are you? And just kind of checking in with the person, because I think a big mistake that people can fall into, which I certainly did in my addiction and all of that, I was extremely conflict avoidant. And I would say that was a huge driver of my addiction, essentially, is like getting into the mental compulsion of reassurance seeking with someone, of constantly being like, are you mad at me? 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 Because that has an impact also on people. And I think that's where we have to balance it of, yes, check in with them. Yes, you're allowed to notice if the vibe is off and you can be curious about it without jumping to a conclusion, but also having that trust. And there is something to be said sometimes for, especially if you're someone who really falls into that anxious pattern and has become a bit reliant on checking in with people if they're mad at you, of trusting that they're not, and trusting that if they had an issue, they would come to you. Because if we never give the space to trust, our brain essentially learns that our anxiety is only quelled by checking in, versus your anxiety can also go down by doing nothing.
If you allow yourself to ride that wave and to get through it and to not have to immediately engage in the behavior that soothes it. And it's hard, and it takes practice and being very intentional, but it's also that barometer is so important when we're talking about making mistakes or wanting to repair for something or wanting to bring something to someone. And I have a lot of thoughts about bringing things to people because I think for me, I personally have a pretty high bar, and I've challenged that sometimes to be like, am I just allowing things to bug me? But I think I do have a personality that I just don't.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for me to be like, I'm actually legitimately mad at you. And I can think of over the years, there's 2 friendships that I'm no longer friends with that stick out in my mind of times where I really had to sit with what had happened. And with one of them, we did have a conversation about it. We did kind of speak what I thought was clearing the air. And then what I recognized in that situation is there was absolutely no effort on behalf of the other person to try to maintain the friendship. And then after a little bit of time had passed, I found out some other things had happened that were very offensive and deeply hurtful. And I made the decision in that moment of like, this is not worth it to explore again. We haven't spoken. I'm just going to let this die because it just did not feel worth it. And the reason I'm sharing that example is because I think this is where it gets dicey of you have to practice looking at your life and your unique circumstances of what are you okay with in a friendship? What are you not okay with? What are you looking for from someone? What does support and trust and loyalty and validation and love, what does that look like from another person for you? How do you gauge that there's a really healthy dose of give and take in either direction? And because a lot of people come to me and be like, what do I do? Do I say something? Do I not say something? Do I, should I talk to them? And very valid questions, because that's your anxiety seeking for an absolution, right? Your anxiety wants an answer. And I think sometimes there's also people that are like, do you hate me? Like, if you don't like me, fine. Like, let's move on.
Yeah. Especially in a group dynamic. I think that's really complicated.
Yes.
Because groups are just super complicated. And there are often people in the group that are closer than other people in the group, and that causes problems and pain.
And it's hard to sort through, like, which are the ones that you want to be close to and which are the ones that you don't care about.
And is it purposeful or not? Like, I think a lot of times it's not purposeful, but it can feel that way depending on if someone has the same circumstance in life compared to other people.
And there was an instance with a friend group, all of whom I'm still in touch with in some form, that at a dinner, I said something that was not the time or place to be said, as I usually do. And that really caused some hard feelings. And what was hard for me in that moment was because I don't mess up in that way a lot. And there were some unique situations in that dynamic of when I just kind of blurted out what I said. And what I then had to do was I had to realize I had to give that other person time. And that was really hard to respect when they needed time. And they were saying to me, like, I will reach out to you. And I kind of wanted to be like, but why? Like, I said I was sorry. Like, it's fine. And like, kind of like running in the circle. And I had to be like, no, like, I can't force them to be better just because that would make me feel better.
Right. Yes.
Because that also is a critical part to helping rebuild the trust in the friendship, that if you are the one that caused someone harm, you are giving them the space and time and respect that they have asked for in order for them to process what's happened.
Totally.
So I'm sharing these 2 examples because one, it was an instance where I got hurt. And then another one, it was an instance where I caused hurt to someone else. And I think it's important to acknowledge the differences of both, and that all of it in some ways requires putting away your ego.
How did you learn that? Because I learned it through AA. I went through a revolution in growing up, essentially because I was extremely emotionally immature, unable to have difficult conversations, horrible communication skills, just a ball of anxiety. And I caused a lot of harm in my addiction. And there was so much shame around it that I was a victim for a really long time about it. And I spent almost a year in therapy just complaining about other people and how mean they were when they were asking fairly simple things like, please don't leave the stove on, and please like don't take my food, and please like don't take my toothpaste, and things like that were like basic things. And I think what was so empowering was I had to apologize to people and make amends. And you literally think you're going to die when you do it. It's the most insane feeling in the world. And I had to go to I went to Acme and said that I stole food. I went to Wawa. I went to Lord and Taylor. I went to a lot of places in addition to talking to people. But it almost was like I did such a hard thing that I felt invincible in that it gave me so much confidence of I can face really hard, terrible things that my brain told me for so long I would die if I ever faced.
Right.
And it's given me a lot of confidence. And even then, things with, professionally, things have happened that have been really challenging that I was sure if I had to have certain conversations, I would die. And then when you don't die, I just think conversations can feel like you're going to die and we avoid them more. And then that gives ourselves more ammunition and more fear that we can't do this. And I just think you're more capable than you think. Even if you're someone who's anxious, who's never been able to do this, who leans more towards being emotionally dysregulated, we completely underestimate the power of practice because that is what repair and communication skills are. My life changed a lot too when I realized that having ruptures with people, it doesn't mean I seek out disagreement with people or I want to get into fights with people by any means. I lean towards the opposite. But when there are opportunities to have a conversation, to go deeper, it is really incredible what you get on the other side because then you have faith with that person and trust that if something happens, we'll be able to work through it. Where if you don't have that, you have this maybe great relationship with a friend or, your partner or whatever, but everything is sort of hanging in limbo and it almost feels like it could go away at any moment, where it is a lot more solid if you've gone through something because then you have that memory of being okay, I don't have to be perfect. I can mess up, they can mess up, and we'll figure it out. Okay, so if you're listening to this episode and feeling oh my gosh, I could actually really use a therapist, we've got you. My practice, Therapy for Women Center, has therapists licensed in 43 states across the country. All the therapists are hired by me, trained by me, handpicked by me, and we really back and support our therapists. We vouch for them, unlike some of these big online therapy platforms. Also, if you're local to the Philadelphia area, we have 3 office locations there. So I would love for you to go to our website, therapyforwomencenter.com, and check it out.
You just did such an excellent job of summarizing why avoidance feels so good short term and is horrific long term, because it does create the illusion of safety. And you do have to flex that muscle to also know if this other person is going to match you.
Yes.
Especially if we're talking about friendships. And I think even more importantly, if we're talking about romantic relationships and long-term partnerships, is this person willing to rumble with you? Meaning, I don't mean name calling. I don't mean disrespect. I don't mean gaslighting. I don't mean dismissing. That's not the type of rumble I'm talking about. I'm talking about the rumble when they're trying, if you bring it to your partner saying, you caused me harm through A, B, C, D, E, if they're willing to rumble in trying to understand why that caused you harm. Even if maybe they're thinking it wasn't a big deal and they're trying to communicate that it wasn't, are they still working hard to hold space for the fact that it was in fact harmful, hurtful, disrespectful to you? And to allow them to have their truth of saying well, I truly did not mean for that to go that way. And I understand that it did. But can you help me understand why? Yep. Someone asking you to explain yourself is not an attack. And I think this is something that's kind of happened with the therapy speak around boundaries, is it's this belief that people should just instantaneously understand our boundaries. And if they push back or question, they're being dicks and you need to kick them out of your life because they don't respect you. That is garbage. That is the most anti-community based language I can think of. People are allowed to ask you for clarification because most of the time they're asking for clarification so that they understand it themselves, so that they can respect your boundaries with clarity. Brene Brown says it perfectly when she says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And there are going to be situations where you do have to communicate something more than once. Mm-hmm. And that's not an immediate indicator of toxicity. The indicator of toxicity is around how do they respond when you have to tell them again. And when we are talking about that avoidance, you are missing such a critical element of vulnerability because you brought it up so beautifully. When people are able to feel safe and know that they can rumble it out in that space. And I think even Amanda, to use the example of what happened with you and I the other week.
Yeah.
Where I kind of went off on one of my tangents and I said a few things that we maybe thought might have been too spicy for the pod. And Amanda called me out on it and I felt embarrassed and I went to my shame space and I kind of shut down and we sat in it and we hashed it out and we worked through it and we spoke through it. And I, even though it was a small moment, like I felt like that was just another bonding moment for our friendship, that we were able to kind of like rumble through that together.
Yeah. No one abandoned the conversation. No one, right? Some people need time. I'm not saying you have to stay in it, but yeah, it's a form of respect and commitment to the relationship that you will stay in it and work through it versus running away. And I get why people run away. Sometimes it's not their intention, that they aren't committed to it. They just don't know how. But I think that's important for the people that are more of the runners to think about in this context.
Yeah, that just because you're feeling uncomfortable, that is not an immediate stop sign.
Yes.
I will, till the day I die, label discomfort as a yield. You pause, you ask, why am I feeling uncomfortable right now? Oh, it's because I'm in a difficult conversation. I have to stay in this. I have to sit in this. Now, for the bean supers out there, which don't you worry, we are planning an episode for you. The fact that if you are sitting here listening to this and you're like, you're telling people to stay in abusive situations, get out. I want you to hit pause. I want you to be done. No, nowhere in any of this conversation are we ever saying, well, you should really duke it out with someone that is being disrespectful and abusive to you.
And if you are genuinely over your threshold,
exactly,
and you are like unable to have a conversation with someone, take a pause, take a moment, come back to the conversation for sure, but make a plan and say to the person, I'm struggling right now. I don't think I can talk about this right now. I want to talk to you about it when I'm a little more regulated. Can we come back in 20 minutes, in an hour, in whatever? But dysregulation isn't always dangerous. And if you know anything about the window of tolerance, the problem is trauma and other things shrink our window of tolerance, right? So the window of tolerance is like this trauma metaphor, essentially about how the best processing and the best learning and connection happens when your nervous system is regulated. But the problem is when trauma happens to us, our window of tolerance shrinks to protect us, which is important. But if you stay there long term, it stays shrunk. And then all the avoidance behaviors you're doing can shrink it more and more and more until we start feeling like everything is unsafe. So we have to slowly start opening up our window of tolerance. We have to slowly start doing things that make us a little bit discomfort, then feeling good that we were able to do that, realizing that we didn't die. And over time, the window can expand. And I think in a lot of ways with mental health, the name of the game is expanding your window. It's what resilience is, because it gives you a much more solid foundation of like, things can happen to me and I will figure it out and I will be okay.
You asked me a question about an hour. You said, how did you learn this?
Yeah.
And there's 2 points. The first one is I have always been a communicator since I was little. It's like communicating verbally has always been the easiest thing to me beyond writing or texting or anything like that. Second is trauma. because of some of the secondary emotional neglect I received as a kid, what I learned was I had to, especially in school, I had to be advocating for myself. I had to be like asking questions about how things were done. I had to be really clear, really direct in figuring things out, because sometimes my parents were busy, and this sounds like they like completely abandoned me, but that's not true. But they put a little bit too much trust in me, which I've talked about with them. We've worked through it. It's fine. But I kind of had like this level of responsibility. They're like, oh, I have to be figuring these things out. Nobody's going to do it for me. I have to do it. And even when stuff with friends would happen, I would be much more, as I got older, everybody has like a friendship divorce in middle school. That's a disaster. Like, yes, that's not, seriously. You're allowed to grow up and be messy and do stupid things, and people are going to do stupid things to you, and it's fine. But as I got older, like through high school and through college, I found that I was kind of we just need to get this done. Like, we just need to talk about it. I don't want anybody else to do the talking for me. Like, I want to be communicating this point. And I had to go through a refining period of that. But then when I was in grad school, one of my supervisors said to me, like, you don't have to take people to the point immediately. That was kind of my trip up when I was getting trained. And now I've realized that's kind of a superpower, but I'm much more honed and finessed at how to do that and kind of gauging where someone's at and if they're open to that, whatever. And I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty good. But also, I think now, if you can look someone dead in the eye and tell them their family member is dead.
Yeah, my God, Sam. Can do a lot of things.
You can do a lot of things. If you can sit in that type of discomfort, there are not a lot of things that scare you. And something that I've learned is there's a lot of importance in not saying things. Sometimes.
Totally.
And to understand that most of the time, someone else's behavior has nothing to do with you. And if you caught them on a different day, they would probably be treating you differently, given that specific situation, or the way they're meeting you, or the way they're getting to know you. And so in friendship, I started taking the same approach. Different, obviously, not near as clinical or professional, but there were some things that happened in a former friendship of mine that I made the decision of, it's not worth it to talk to this person. I don't want to go through that because I already did. And I felt like a lot of the pressure to fix and repair was on me, even though I wasn't the one that caused the original problem. And I just realized, like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. This is clearly something that we are both outgrowing, and that's fine. And so there's a finesse to this as well that only comes if you practice it.
It's why using ChatGPT to script out everything you want to say, or taking scripts from therapists online. It is what therapy speak became unpopular because of that viral TikTok of that therapist acting like an HR representative.
Yes.
Telling someone that she didn't have the capacity to be friends with anyone anymore without warning. It was like terrible.
It was weird. So weird.
Exactly, Sam. And you may be more robotic when you start, but you have to, it's only something. It is only a muscle that you can do. You can read about how to do it. It's like reading about how to exercise. Unless you actually pick up the weight and get it in your body, you can learn as much as you can, but you're never going to actually feel comfortable with it if you script everything out.
Regardless of what type of communication you're struggling with, whether it is face-to-face contact, whether it is communicating over email or text, whether it is professional or personal, it doesn't matter. What I would tell you is, you have to start trying. You have to start broaching some of these topics, allowing some of these conversations to come to you. And I think this could even be practiced as simply as someone saying to you, how are you? And instead of just automatically saying, fine, great, good, awesome. Now again, the bean supers are like, well, I don't want to have this conversation with somebody at work. Fine. But also, you could be honest. If your boss comes to you and says, hey, how are things? You could say, ABC has been really challenging. It's been really hard. I know I've brought this to you before. I just want to say that this is still a problem. I'm still having a hard time with XYZ. Could we have a conversation about it? If your partner comes to you, how did you feel when this happened? Or are you doing okay? Blah, blah, blah. Right? Like, tell them instead of just immediately deferring to it's fine, it's okay, it's great. Be honest.
And I think a hack of that, because I do think some of us fall into these patterns, or that was something I did where I would always just say everything was fine. And then it felt like the moment passed, is like, you also have permission to say like, that was a lie.
Yes.
You do.
Yes. Yeah.
You can be like, I don't know, why is it? Like, you can make a joke. Like, and I think that's the finesse you're kind of talking about, Sam.
Yes.
Of like, it is with communication. You can be like, oh, didn't mean to say that. Don't know why I said that. If you know, sometimes people are so rigid about, well, I have to say the perfect thing. And I can't, like, a lot of the connection is actually in the messiness.
Yes.
Of it, of being like, I don't remember what I was going to say, or right, those like little, right, as people who talk to people a lot for a living,
all day,
those are like some of the connection building moments. And I think people who struggle with connection and talking to people, a lot of times it's because they're very rigid and they're insecure about it, and the rigidness, right, kind of protects them, and they can't just meet the moment and be present and see what's there. Like, you can't just script out what you're going to say, but you can, I mean, practice being present on your own first is a helpful thing to do, right? Like, which some of it is get off your phone, go sit outside, practice not having your brain entertained 24/7.
I saw someone on TikTok say they went 15 minutes with nothing, no TV, no phone, no AirPods, no nothing but their brain, and they were super proud. And I'm like, imagine explaining that to someone from like 1902. 15 minutes with nothing, and then all of a sudden I kind of was like judgy at first, and then I was like, oh dear God. So you have to practice sitting in that discomfort,
and there will be awkward silences, and it's okay, and
you might not know what to say.
Like being human. Yeah, it's okay. Like, we have to preserve that. And I worry sometimes we are like engineering out every difficult thing, every point of friction in our lives. Everything is so easy. We then don't have the distress tolerance to deal with someone saying something slightly different, or right. Like, that is like the texture of connection. And that's actually what makes it great, is these little imperfect moments. And Danielle Bayard-Jackson, who is on the podcast, who is like a friendship expert, as an incredible, she totally changed my belief about small talk. Like, she talks a lot about how small talk is sort of sometimes just recognizing someone else's humanity, and you don't have to say something really deep or be like 100% honest with like the neighbor that you don't know. And there are a lot of things you can talk about. You can like ask them about their dog or the weather. I mean, I think it's hard in like when, you know, everyone is so polarized with politics, and when you ask someone how they are, it's hard not to be like, well, the state of the world, you know, if they have different beliefs than you. But yeah, I don't know. It's been something I've been thinking about lately too, as I used to be someone who was like, I hate small talk and I'm so much better than everyone because I don't do, you know, I only do real talk. And it's like, okay, but not everything needs to be that deep, Amanda.
My problem is I'll talk all day.
I know. You're
anything,
good at small talk.
Anything, all the time, always. I'll just.
Well, what are your tips for the people who struggle with small talk?
I think this is good because in my mind while you were talking, I was thinking about people that are afraid to pick up the phone.
Yes.
Or afraid to make a phone call. And I think this kind of like merges in with that. So keep those 2 points in mind. I would say most people actually really appreciate when someone talks to them. I think there's also a myth that has been created in social media that everybody's like, stay away from me, don't talk to me, I feel weird. Blah, blah, blah. Now, again, you can read the room, right? But for example, at my new place yesterday, there are more dogs than people here in this building. And it's incredible. And I'll say hi if they have a dog. I'll be like, oh my God, your dog's so cute. And they're like, oh, thank you. And I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. And then we leave, and that's fine. And I think to find something, or another way that I'll do it is if I get on an elevator with someone and it's just me and them, if they're getting off first, I'll say something like, have a good day. And I think sometimes people are like, oh yeah, you too. Mm-hmm. But there's kind of a brightness there. I would say like 2% of the time people are weird. And then again, they could be having the worst day of their life. I don't know. So I don't judge that. I do that for me. I don't do it because it's necessarily for somebody else. I do it for me. And so even like on the phone, if the phone is really hard for you, start by calling somebody that wants to talk to you. Or if there's an appointment that you need to make, start with that. I really kind of get frustrated with people on the phone because I think that is something that people assume they should be anxious about. It's really not that big of a deal. Like it's communicating, it's talking, it's articulating your needs, it's asking questions. And so look for little moments where you could they're brief, but you address something that you're both experiencing. Like, for example, last time I was on the plane, nobody apparently knew how to put their luggage in the overhead bin correctly. And we were all being punished, waiting for everybody to figure out how to do that. And the lady in front of me turned around and I was like, everybody's first day on a plane, huh? And she laughed because I'm funny. And you just have to have that level of confidence.
Yeah. I will say, I'll defend the people that are afraid of the phone. If you think everyone's mad at you, you think whenever anyone's calling, they're mad at you.
You think they're calling you to punish you? Like they're calling you to be
I think they're calling me to tell me that like I messed up and something's wrong, unless I like know them really well. I like a warning, especially if I don't talk to people often. Like I like a reason of why you're calling me.
And it can't be we need to talk.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I've never said that to anybody.
No, I've never. I mean, probably to break up with someone, which is, the thing.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I like a heads up just because I'm not normally someone who answers the phone, but I will if someone's calling me or if I know why. Like I have a friend, I love her, but she only FaceTimes.
Oh.
And I'm just like, oh my God, this is aggressive sometimes.
That I have surprised one friend with a FaceTime call. And that's like someone that I'm like insanely close to. And yeah. I was showing her that I framed something that she gave me. So that's why.
Yeah. But I FaceTime now more. It's so weird when you have a kid. You like FaceTime all the time.
Yeah.
I never really FaceTimed with my parents ever. You like set up the phone, you're cooking dinner. Like I get it more now. But yeah, it's funny. Anyway, you get better at conflict by practicing. Healthy conflict looks like being honest, being imperfect, getting curious about what the other person's doing. I think my biggest tip is try not to be defensive. Defensiveness like kills relationships. And it's really hard, especially if you're in the habit of it because you just feel like you're going to die. But practice shutting your mouth and really listening to what's like. My life changed so much when I had like a sponsor in AA who was like, you can listen to what everyone is saying and you can fully hear it and you don't have to say anything. Hearing someone does not mean you agree with them. Like you can hear what someone says about you and not disagree, but that doesn't mean that you're agreeing with them if you don't explicitly say that. And like I heard people say things to me that I didn't agree with when I was like doing amends and stuff, but it is such an incredible skill to actually like humble yourself and let people tell you things about yourself and be like, okay, I hear that that's your perspective.
Just allowing multiple truths to exist and practicing sitting in that contradiction.
Yeah.
Or what feels like a contradiction.
Yes. I think we said presence.
Yeah.
Being present.
Being curious.
And emotional regulation skills, unfortunately.
Because it's going to be uncomfortable. If you want to get better at repairing relationships, fixing relationships, maintaining and managing relationships, this is the integral skill.
Well, let us know if you all have follow-up questions, thoughts. As always, if you would like us to do a friendship breakup episode, let us know.
As per usual, anything that you can do to get the word out about the pod, please rate, review, share, subscribe. Your messages and your reviews have meant so much to us. They've been lovely. They're so kind. And you can comment on the episodes on Spotify. Anything is helpful. So,
we love you.
We love you. You're the best. Okay, bye.
Bye.